Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Good morning, good afternoon, however you're tuning in. Marcus Giuliano, your chef on a mission from Aromatime Bistro in Ellenville. It is July 27th. July 27th, if you're catching this live. If you're catching this live, just drop a hashtag live if it's on the replay. Hello. And that's my sound check. We're good to go. So drop a comment, hashtag live if you're watching live. If it's on the replay, hashtag replay, always drop a comment of where you're tuning in from. That always helps. I'm going to talk about something that was exposed in a major newspaper just recently, just last Sunday. Bear with me just a couple of moments while we do the introductions and everything and say hello to people tuning in. If you're on YouTube and watching this, drop us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Really appreciate that. YouTube is always the replay, live on Facebook. So, thanks everybody tuning in. Hi, Billy, Jennifer, and everybody else is tuning in. Got people coming in. Hi, Holly. So, I'm going to talk about something that's really part of my passion today about food. So, it's early in the morning here. It's about 7:30 that I'm doing this live. I'm getting ready to go. I'm on a bike ride right after this. That's why this bright yellow shirt is on, because I am going cycling right after this. Got a great bike ride in yesterday. Jamie and I got a good bike ride in on the weekend. We did 25 miles on the weekend. Taking advantage of this beautiful weather and cycling. So, good morning, Lloyd from Olive Bridge. All right, so exposed in a major newspaper. Exposed in a major newspaper. So what I'm going to talk about is salmon, farmed salmon. And many of you heard me say this many times. I took a vow, back in 1999, 2000, to never serve farmed salmon again. Once I learned what the industry was about, and there's no right way to do the wrong thing, I said farmed salmon is not part of what I'm going to represent as a chef. Chef with morals and ethics and committed to sustainability. There's so many chefs that say we're committed to sustainability, we're farm to table, we're into renewable resources, we're into sustainable food. And you look at their menu and they have farmed salmon on their menu. I was so committed to this that not only have I not done it in over 20 years, served farmed salmon, but I actually sent out a press release back in 2005, about a year and a half after we opened, and says, I vow never to serve farmed salmon in my restaurant. And that was 2005. And we've stayed true to that 100%. So here's the latest in the farmed salmon industry, as far as it hitting in mainstream media. You can do a search on Google for farmed salmon in the news, and you'll find a lot of shocking stories. Because they don't really hide it in a lot of the media. It's something that's very tough to hide, especially when you live in these communities. The stench, the dead fish that are there, the bays the rocks that are covered with all of the salmon fat and the odors and them hauling off dead salmon. That is, folks, this happens in most of the salmon farms. The open pen salmon farms are like this. This is how salmon is raised. When you put salmon into close confinements, and even if it's low density, it's still close confinement. You think about it, salmon swim 2,000 miles, wild salmon, 2,000 miles, and come back to the exact spot they spawned in, they were born in, right? That they're hatched. So they make this amazing journey through the ocean. Well, the salmon, when they're nets, don't get to do that. So even if they say low density, you're still limiting the salmon into a confined area, maybe the size of a half a football field or whatever. The salmon, they don't like that. It's not their deal. So this last week, actually, let me pull this up on my computer here. See if I got it here. Let's see, where'd it go? Here we go. So this article was just published July 25th. So this is brand new news. From the Scottish Mail, the newspaper in Scotland. And this is big title right here on page 20, the Scottish Mail, July 25th. Revealed the nauseating underbelly of Scotland's $1 billion salmon farms. So I was just at a restaurant recently, that was touting their Scottish salmon as the best salmon, and it's wild salmon, which is not wild salmon. All Scottish salmon you see on menus here in the U.S. are indeed farmed salmon. The little bit of wild salmon that gets caught in Scotland is sport fishing, typically, and it's spent fish. It means the fish have already spawned. They've gone upriver and spawned. They're in the dying process, and investment bankers and people like that pay 10,000 euros to go up there and catch a couple fish, and if they actually get a legitimate run in a river to catch the fish, is literally 50 euros a kilo. There's not many people that even sell true Scottish salmon, wild Scottish salmon. It's very far in between. So when you're getting Scottish salmon here in America, you're getting farm salmon. Now, if you go to a place like the Kitchen, Tom Kitchen, a friend of mine who has a Michelin 2-star up in Scotland, him and I worked together for Pierre Kaufman's and with Tom Clare. Him and I were two of the line chefs there. We worked at the same station. He probably has a chance of getting true wild caught Scottish salmon, but you're going to pay very dearly. It's a Michelin 2-star restaurant, and you're going to pay very, very, very dearly for it. It's not something that people just spend money on. So with that aside, all Scottish salmon in America, when you see it, is going to be farmed Scottish salmon. So now, this is the title: Revealed: The Nauseating Underbelly of Scotland's $1 billion salmon farms. Here's a picture on here of a salmon, and its whole face is attached with sea lice. All attached with sea lice. Fish eaten alive by lice. Cages awash with feces. Dead salmon left to rot as the #1 producer is probed by cops. What are you putting on your plate? So fish eaten alive by lice, sea lice. Folks, farm salmon is a very nasty, dirty industry, no matter what claims they make. I went into Restaurant Depot last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever my last time was at Restaurant Depot, and I'm walking through this seafood section, and I go through the frozen seafood section. I'm looking at everybody. I inspect and I take pictures because, it's just shocking, the stuff that all these restaurants are using. And I'm looking at everything, and it's like every single box of fish has some off logo on it, certified sustainable, this sustainable program, aquaculture, this alliance, this is, everything has some kind of seal of approval, and it's different seals of approval, and it's just, and all those, most of those are meaningless, totally meaningless. The best ones are Marine Stewardship Council, which not many species get that, and there's nothing really in Restaurant Depot that's getting MSC certified. Monterey Bay Aquarium, which won't put it on the box, but they have a good program, and I don't agree with a lot of their choices. Or some of their choices I don't agree with, but I understand why they do it. I understand their process. But you look, and there's just any of these companies can make claims. Any of these fish farms can make claims. This is like I don't know if you remember seeing the commercials like with Chrysler and stuff, and they used to be able to 5-star rated. That was their own organization rating them 5 stars. A lot of these companies make up their own organizations. These entities make up their own organizations so they can give themselves awards, so they look like it's a better product than it actually is, and it's part of marketing. It's called marketing, creative marketing. So all these, like, you walk in the Restaurant Depot, and it's the cheapest fish. It's pumped with chemicals. It's pumped with sodium solutions to get weight on it. You thaw it, you get shrinkage. You cook it, you get more shrinkage, and everything looks like you're buying. It doesn't take a genius to go look these up on the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch or MSC or on fishchoice.com and really see where they actually stand in the ratings. But most chefs are just like, oh yeah, this is okay. It's okay. It's it's being sold. It's okay. The picture on this in the Scottish mail here is literally lice all attached to a salmon's head, and this salmon will literally get eaten alive by lice and die. And the problem with this is these lice are not only in the salmon farm, but they get out into the wild, which is one of the major detriments of open pen farming. Open pen farming has holes in it. The salmon can't swim out of the holes because the holes are too small, but lice can go out, the feces can go out, water comes in, water goes out, so water moves through these bays, right through the salmon farms, and transports everything into the bay. And now, because the salmon farms are on the direct migratory path of the wild salmon now get sea lice, and they now have issues. Um, it's just it's there's no right way to do the wrong thing when it comes to open pen salmon farming. I don't care if it's in the Faroe Islands, which a lot of chefs are stuck on Faroe Island stuff. Faroe Islands is no different. They might be a step better. So if you rate somebody a two, even they might be get rated a three. They might get one notch better because maybe they have less farms. Maybe they're doing one thing a little better. But the bottom line is the way salmon goes into pens and put into pens and what happens in pens, even with True North and Loch Duhart, the most sustainable salmon in the farm salmon in the world. That's their own tagline. It's their own trademark tagline, True North, because they think they have Martha Stewart in their pocket, and she's one of their they sponsor Martha Stewart and some of these other chefs. They think that that people think they have a superior product, and they don't. They have superior marketing, and part of the marketing is putting on these fake certifications that they come up with to make you think and make chefs think that they're getting a better product. So that's the bottom line. Stay away from all farmed salmon that's open pen. Recirculating salmon, close containment salmon is something different. There's still issues with the feed. There's still some issues, but it's a totally different ball game when you're farming fish inland in a containment system that filters everything out, that has fresh water going constantly on it. And it's a totally different story. The fish still are confined, however, they still do eat food that probably has pesticides and things like that, but they're not. The feces isn't getting out into the ocean, into the bays. The lice isn't getting out. All the other viruses don't get out into the ocean and infect the other fish. So if you are going to eat farm salmon, I would only recommend closed containment salmon, which is expensive. There's a farm in upstate New York doing coho. It's an expensive salmon. It costs a lot more money than salmon farms. Think about it, folks. To throw a net, to make a metal ring and can take a net and construct a net and drop a net into a bay doesn't cost much, right? To build a building, build inland ponds, have a recirculating system, filters. This is about 7 times the price of throwing a net into, more than probably 7 times the price, than throwing a net into the ocean and throwing some fish into it. It's a much bigger investment on a salmon farm. So salmon farms don't do that typically. There are some that are doing it. Norway is giving incentives for some of these salmon companies to do this, to go inland and do a better farmed salmon. But as far as right now, folks, when you're buying the salmon in restaurants and stuff, most of the time, it is indeed very inexpensive, very unsustainable, very filthy, very toxic, environmental destructive farmed salmon that a chef is thinking that he's doing the right thing, or they know they're doing the wrong thing. A lot of them know they're doing the wrong thing, which is why chefs will lie. Like, I went to this one restaurant that is serving this Scottish salmon, and they're so like, oh, well, it's wild. It's wild. It's wild. It's not wild. You know the difference. You know the difference, and you're lying about it. You just don't know who you're talking to right now, who's going to call you out on it, because I'm a lot smarter than you, your chef, your owner, and probably the person you bought the fish from. I'm a lot smarter than them. So they probably just went to Restaurant Depot and bought it. So that's the situation, folks. Farmed salmon, especially Scottish salmon, is the worst. Scottish salmon is known to be the worst in the industry, and sometimes they're the worst because the government just doesn't step in and enforce stuff. They know they can get away with stuff in certain governments, in certain areas, in certain regions. Argentina just banned open pen salmon farming in Argentina. They were very concerned about the environment. There were some proposals that come in from these big companies, and they downright banned it and said, nope, we see the destruction and devastation in other parts of the world where farmed salmon is, and we're not going to allow it here. We want to preserve our beautiful resources here in the ocean, and we're not doing it. Salmon farms are even fighting, like in New Zealand and Australia. New Zealand, they're actually fighting with each other because some of these salmon farms are growing way too fast, and they're ruining it for the other salmon farms that are saying your salmon farms are ruining everything here, and polluting and everything, and we're just here with a couple pens, and you guys are throwing up 30-40 pens, and you're going to ruin it for all of us. You can't be that obvious that you're destroying the environment. Couple nets out there is not as bad as 40 nets out there, 40 pens, and these people are up in arms at each other in these places of salmon farms, and You know, they don't have a good reputation with each other. They don't play fair in the sandbox. So farm salmon, folks, avoid it. Tell restaurants to avoid it. And that's the bottom line with that. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the support. I'm going to go out and get on my bike now, go for a nice ride here in beautiful Ellenville, probably go up the mountain or something. I did yesterday. Hope you have an amazing day. Drop a comment again where you're tuning in from. That always helps. Good morning, Gina. Of course, Jamie was on as well. Just had some fresh grapefruit juice that Jamie made. Fresh squeezed grapefruit juice. All right, folks, have an amazing day. We'll talk to you later.